Daily Words of God. The incarnate God cannot stay with man forever, because God has a lot more other work to do. He cannot be bound to the flesh. He has to shed the flesh to do the work he must do, even though he does that work in the image of the flesh. When God comes to the earth, He does not wait until he has reached the form that a normal person ought to attain before dying and leaving mankind. No matter how old his flesh is, when his work is finished, he goes and leaves man. There is no such thing as age for him. He does not count his days according to the human lifespan. Instead, he ends his life in the flesh, in accordance with the steps of his work. There may be those who feel that God, in coming into the flesh, must age to a certain extent, must grow into an adult, reach old age, and leave only when that body fails. This is man's imagination. God does not work thus. He comes into the flesh only to do the work he is supposed to do, and not to live a normal man's life of being born to parents, growing up, forming a family and starting a career, having and raising children, or experiencing life's ups and downs, all the activities of a normal man. When God comes to earth, this is God's Spirit putting on the flesh, coming into the flesh. But God does not live the life of a normal person. He only comes to accomplish one part in his management plan. After that, he will leave mankind. When he comes into the flesh, God's Spirit does not perfect the normal humanity of the flesh. Rather, at a time that God has predetermined, the divinity goes to work directly. Then, after doing all that he needs to do and fully completing his ministry, the work of God's Spirit in this stage is done, at which point the life of the incarnate God also ends, regardless of whether his fleshly body has lived out its span of longevity. That is to say, whatever stage of life the fleshly body reaches, however long it lives on earth, everything is decided by the work of the Spirit. It has nothing to do with what man considers to be normal humanity. Take Jesus as an example. He lived in the flesh for 33.5 years. In terms of the lifespan of a human body, he should not have died at that age, and he should not have left. But this was of no concern to God's Spirit. His work being finished, at that point the body was taken away, disappearing along with the Spirit. This is the principle by which God works in the flesh. And so, strictly speaking, the humanity of God incarnate is not of primary importance. To reiterate, he comes to the earth not to live the life of a normal human being. He does not first establish a normal human life and then begin working. Rather, as long as he is born into a normal human family, he is able to do divine work, work that is unblemished by man's intentions, that is not fleshly, that certainly does not adopt the ways of society, or involve man's thoughts or notions, and moreover, that does not involve man's philosophies for living. This is the work that God incarnate intends to do, and it is also the practical significance of his incarnation. God comes into the flesh primarily to do a stage of the work that needs to be done in the flesh, without undergoing other trivial processes. And as for the experiences of a normal man, he does not have them. The work that God's incarnate flesh needs to do does not include normal human experiences. So God comes into the flesh for the sake of accomplishing the work he needs to accomplish in the flesh. The rest has nothing to do with him. He does not go through so many trivial processes. Once his work is done, the significance of his incarnation also ends. Finishing this stage means the work that he needs to do in the flesh has concluded, and the ministry of his flesh is complete. But he cannot keep working in the flesh indefinitely. He has to move on to another place to work, a place outside of the flesh. Only thus can his work be performed fully and advance to greater effect. God works according to his original plan. What work he needs to do and what work he has concluded, he knows as clearly as the palm of his hand. God leads every individual to walk a path that he has already predetermined. No one can escape this. Only those who follow the guidance of God's Spirit will be able to enter into rest. It may be that in later work, it will not be God speaking in the flesh to guide man, but a spirit with tangible form guiding man's life. Only then will man be able concretely to touch God, look upon God, and better enter into the reality God requires, so as to become perfected by the practical God. This is the work that God intends to accomplish, and what he planned long ago. From this, you should all see the path you should take.